The wall of data flickered in the early morning light of intelligence headquarters. Kong stood motionless, his eyes scanning the endless streams of information. After hours, a pattern emerged, faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there. It was a signature he knew all too well. Ghost. Miles away, Lynn was buried in archives, the scent of old paper and dust filling the air. She wasn't just reading, she was searching for the spaces between the words, the gaps in the official narrative. And she found one. A mission report so clean, so perfect, it had to be a lie. Back on the streets, Kong was a phantom in the crowd. He shadowed an unidentified man, his movements calm and calculated, a dance of predator and prey through the city's arteries. He didn't know who the man was, but he knew who had sent him. The past echoed. A younger ghost, his face sharp and intense, training a new generation of agents. He wasn't just teaching them combat. He was molding their minds, conditioning their every psychological reflex. Kong paused, analyzing the route his target had taken. It was a ghost from the past, a path laid out with the same chilling logic Ghost had drilled into his own students years ago. The connection was undeniable. Lynn's screen lit up with fragmented images, pieces of a digital ghost she was painstakingly resurrecting from deleted files. Slowly, the pixels formed a faceholder, more weathered but unmistakably him. The face of Ghost. Kong's trail led him to a derelict building, a tomb of forgotten secrets. Dust-covered footprints marked a path across the decaying floor. He was close. As he moved deeper inside, a hidden camera whirred to life, capturing a fleeting shadow in the corner of its lens. The figure was gone before it could be identified, but the message was clear. Ghost was watching. Meanwhile, Lin met with a retired officer, a man whose hands trembled as he spoke. He recounted fragments of Ghost's past, stories of a legendary operative who walked the line between hero and monster, a man the agency had tried to erase. Kong found an old safe hidden behind a loose brick. Inside, a single, handwritten letter. It was from Ghost, addressed to a former director, detailing a betrayal that had never made it into the official records. This wasn't just a manhunt. It was an excavation of buried history. Lin's fingers flew across the keyboard, cross-referencing files, dates, and locations. A shocking truth surfaced from the digital depths. Years ago, on a mission that had gone horribly wrong, Ghost had saved Kong's life. Kong stood in a room covered in coded symbols, chalked onto the crumbling walls. It was a language he understood intimately, a series of techniques Ghost himself had taught him. This wasn't just a hideout. It was a classroom. Ghost's presence was everywhere, yet he remained unseen. A flicker on a distorted security feed, a glitch in the system. It was a psychological game, and Ghost was a master. Lin's own terminal was suddenly compromised. No data was stolen, no physical harm done, just a wave of electronic interference designed to intimidate, to remind her she was vulnerable. In a narrow, rain-slicked alley, Kong found what he was looking for. A miniature tracking device, left for him to discover. It was a test. The past flooded back a memory of Ghost teaching a young Kang how to vanish into a crowd, how to use the city as a shield. He was being taught a lesson all over again. Kang and Lin knew they couldn't risk digital communication. Instead, they exchanged information through a series of non-digital, direct signals: a chalk mark on a wall, a newspaper left on a bench. Old-school tradecraft, taught by the very man they were hunting. Then, a ghost from an old mission resurfaced. His former associate, his face etched with worry, found Kong. He delivered a stark warning. Ghost isn't just seeking revenge. He's executing a long-term strategy, a plan set in motion years ago. The realization hit Kang with the force of a physical blow. Ghost wasn't just an enemy. He was a living part of his own past, a mentor, a savior, and now his ultimate adversary. Lin, driven by this new understanding, dove deeper. She infiltrated international databases, bypassing firewalls and security protocols to trace Ghost's vast financial network, a web of shell corporations and offshore accounts that spanned the globe. At that same moment, Kong watched from a rooftop across the city. For a split second he saw him, figure passing a distant window, then vanishing as if he were never there. Lin's investigation yielded a breakthrough. encrypted command strings hidden within the financial data, linked to a multinational covert system. This was bigger than anyone imagined. Following the trail, Kong broke into a subterranean facility. The air was cold and stale. He found a room filled with obsolete surveillance equipment, tilt-a-reel tape recorders, analog monitors, the technology of a bygone era of espionage. Ghost was using the old ways to hide in the new world. On a dusty console, a small, intricately carved wooden bird was left behind. A trinket. Kong picked it up, and a forgotten memory surged forward, raw and painful. Lin later managed to decode a microdot hidden within the object. It revealed partial data of an imminent operation, a threat looming on the horizon. As Kang processed this, the cameras in the area around him suddenly went dark. Total blackout. He was being watched, but now he had no idea by whom. Was it Ghost? Or someone else? The past and present collided. A vivid flashback. Kong young and bleeding out during a failed mission, with Ghost appearing from the shadows to pull him to safety. The emotional conflict was tearing him apart. The pressure mounted on Lin to understand the threat. She was forced to unlock a highly restricted data vault, knowingly activating silent alarms throughout the agency. She was now a target herself. Kong emerged from the basement, his senses on high alert. He could feel the subtle, expert patterns of pursuit. He wasn't just being followed, he was being herded. In response, Lin deployed a series of decoy datasets, brilliantly misdirecting those tracking her digital footprint, buying them precious time. They reunited at an abandoned bus terminal, the silence of the cavernous space amplifying the tension. They didn't need to speak. They both knew Ghost was close, that this was the final stage of his game. A shadowy intermediary emerged from the gloom, handing Kang a folder containing intelligence on Ghost's next move. It was a deliberate move, another piece in the puzzle. Kong finally understood. This was never about physical combat. It was a psychological chess match, and every move had been orchestrated by Ghost. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place as Lin uncovered irrefutable evidence. There was a traitor within their own organization, feeding information to Ghost from the inside. Kong prepared for the inevitable confrontation, checking his weapon and technical gear. He wasn't just preparing for a fight. He was preparing for a reckoning. From a distant building, Ghost watched them through a sniper scope, his finger resting near the trigger. But he didn't fire. He chose to let the final act play out. Together, Kong and Lin set their own trap, not a physical one, but a psychological gambit. They sent a message coded in a way that only Ghost would understand. A challenge. The tension was unbearable. Every shadow, every sound, every move felt anticipated, as if they were puppets on a stage. In the end, Kong stood before a mirror. In the reflection, he saw his own face, but behind it, he saw the ghost of his mentor. He saw the man who made him, the man who saved him, and the man he now had to destroy. Lin stood silently behind him, her presence a steady anchor in the storm. The game was over. The true confrontation was about to begin.